Okay. Heint treffen wir sich in Januar, dem 7. Januar, זה נכון? היום זה שביעי.
6.
Gut, heint ist der 6. Januar 2023. Today, it is January 6, 2023. היום, זוהי הפגישה שלנו האינטראקטיבית ב6 בינואר 2023. זוהי פגישה, אם אני לא טועה, זוהי פגישה מספר 233. If I am not mistaken, this is our meeting 233. And Nechama, which you call her Nomi Miller, wrote me that she found in YIVO Institute, she found a whole document about Chaim Grade and his archive. And Nechama asked if we can speak today a little bit about Chaim Grade. Since we are reading the story of Chaim Grade, Zeides und Einiklech, grandfathers and grandchildren, and we are near the end, I think that it is a good advice, which Nechama said, maybe we can speak a little bit about Chaim Grade and his archive. Before we begin to end reading the story in Yiddish and translating it into Hebrew and English. Aviva, did you hear in your whole life who Chaim Grade is?
I haven't read any of his books, unfortunately. I did read up a little bit on his biography, but that was a while ago as well.
Okay. What was your impression from what you read years ago? What did you thought Chaim Grade is in Yiddish literature? It's not an examination, it's only what is the impression which rested with you after you met something about God?
Well, I thought he was probably a bit controversial in terms of his background, but I may be wrong because that was a really long
why
time
did
ago.
you think?
I cannot remember.
That
That was
okay?
That was
Okay.
Several years ago, but I did want to read some of his works. So that was my impression.
And can you try to guess why did you thought that he was controversial?
I would have to revisit the Wikipedia page to find that out because I can't remember.
בסדר. שלמה, מה אתה יודע על הארכיב של גראדה, the archives of Chaim Grade?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I know nothing.
Very good, very fortunately, so I can speak about it. Nechama, מה את יודעת על הארכיון של חיים גראדה?
Mein Baba hat lieb gehabt, sehr Chaim Gaden. Ich habe gewusst wegen ihm, ein bisschen. Ich bin gewesen in einer Gruppe in einer Schule und in einer liberale Schule und der Rav, nicht dem höchsten Rav, aber dem zweiten oder dem dritten Rav in der größten Reformschule da in Toronto, hat geführt Lehnkreis zu lernen. Ich gedenke nicht, dass es gewesen mit 12 Jahren, 14 Jahren zurück. Efter mein Mama Shabbosim, efter die Yeshiva. Es ist gewesen sehr schwer das ist nicht gewesen wie Shalom Aleichem. Das ist gewesen sehr anders. Aber ich bin gewollt sehr zu wissen und zu lernen und zu bekennen mit ihm.
כן, אוקיי. ורה.
כן?
Was kennt ihr oder was habt ihr gehört wegen Graden und sein Archiv? ורה?
אפשר בעברית?
בטח. ודאי. אפשר בעברית, כן.
אז קודם אני קראתי מיין מאמס שבוסים, וזהו, אחר כך קראתי על גראדה סתם באינטרנט.
כן, כן.
וזהו, קצת קראתי עליו גם באנגלית.
אוקיי.
Sein Werk ist übergesetzt auf Russisch und Polish.
מיין מאמס שבוסים אני קראתי ביידיש. אחר כך פתאום מצאתי ברוסית, אז קראתי כל מיני סיפורים, יש שם ספר, אז קראתי משם גם סיפורים, אחרים כבר ברוסית.
אוקיי. דניאל, מה אתה שמעת על גראדה ועל הארכיון שלו?
החיים שלו שהוא נולד בווילנוס,
כן.
ועבר בארצות הברית. אני יודע מתי זה היה, לפני המלחמה אולי.
אחרי המלחמה, ב-48.
אחרי המלחמה?
כן, ב-48.
ואז הוא המשיך לספרות, אפשר להגיד, אני חושב, אפשר להגיד ספרות יידיש, אבל שילוב של סיפורים מהילדות שלו, לא יודע מה, מהחיים שהוא חי בווילנוס.
אוקיי, אני מקבל את ההצעה של נחמה. I accept the wish of Nechama, and we will speak a little bit, not too much, about Chaim Grade and his archive. The first thing I want to say is that I was involved personally with the whole issue of his archive, because his widow, Ina Hecker Grade, was in contact with a lawyer in New York. And she wanted this lawyer should take care of Chaim Grade's heritage as a lawyer. And one day, it was in May 1910, I received a telephone call from this lawyer in New York. And in a moment, I will remember his name. And also my wife received a telephone call in the National Library where she was working. The name of the lawyer was Norman Lees. And he lives until today in New York. He's a renowned lawyer in New York. And he asked my wife if her name is Tova Sheintuch. And he asked me if my name is Yechiel Sheintuch. And he said, Ina Hecker Grade, the widow of Chaim Grade, wants to make you and your wife, the heirs of his archival material. You can ask me why. Okay, why all of the sudden I was involved in that. And one of the reasons is that in 1983, I was in New York and I contacted Ina Hecker Grade. It was a year after the death of Chaim Grade. I met her. I even was at her house, at the house of Chaim Grade. And I told her that I am a professor of Yiddish literature in the Hebrew University. And I am preparing myself to research Chaim Grade's manuscripts and to give lectures about Chaim Grade at the Hebrew University. I was at their home and I learned that they had in the library at the home of Chaim Grade about 30,000 books, which included Judaica, included Yiddish literature, and included a lot of volumes about plastic arts, about paintings and painters, of the whole history of the arts. And the lawyer, Norman Lees, told me that Ina Hecker Grade, the widow, died in May 1010, and that she wrote a will. He didn't tell me in what year, and he received a copy where in that will she says that she wants that because I am a professor at the Hebrew University and I am teaching Chaim Grade and I am researching his manuscripts, she wants to pass to the National Library in Jerusalem through through myself the archival material of Chaim Grad after her death. And since then, since May 1910, an exchange of letters between Norman Lees, the lawyer, and myself was going on for some 5 years. I have a big dossier with the letters we interchanged. And the problem was that after the widow of Chaim Grade died, the person who was in charge of cleaning the house was the superintendent of Bronx, the neighborhood where Grade lived, because the widow in the last 2 years of her life was very ill, and he was in charge, was very ill, and as I heard, had not a penny, and he was named the supervisor of her life in the last years of her life. And after she died, he decided that the archives of Chaim Grade will be offered to 4 or 5 universities in the United States, and the best offer will take the archive to such university. I will not.
Das meint von Geld? The best offer mit Geld?
Geld, das heißt, jene Universität, was wird bezahlen mehr, wird bekommen dem Archiv. I will not bother you with the whole story, but at the end, there was a kind of agreement that the archives of Chaim Grade and copies of the archive go to 2 institutions, to Evo Institute in New York and to the National Library in Jerusalem. And I was a little bit involved in the whole transactions. Now, why didn't I receive what Ina Hecker-Grade wanted I should take? Because in New York, there is a Beit Mishpat.
Court.
A court.
There is a court for such things, and the court says to my lawyer, Norman Lees decided that he will be on my behalf, my lawyer, pro bono, that he will not take any money from me, but he will try to help me to receive what Ina Hecker-Grade wanted to give me in the National Library in Jerusalem. So the court in New York said, very good, but where is the original will? Because Norman Lees had a copy and not the original will. And those people who entered the house, who was full of books and documents to the roof. They threw away tons of materials that they thought that it is superfluous materials. So we don't know what they throw away. And they didn't find the original will. I guess that the original will by Ina Hecker Gade, where my name and the name of Tova is mentioned, I guess that it was written not after 1992. Why? Because the widow, Ina Hecker Gade, was a very, I would say, energetic and independent woman. And we befriended each other when I was in New York in 1983. And since then, because she was a very energetic woman, we were speaking by phone every week, more or less, and at very, very strange hours. Ina Hecker Grade didn't care if she phones to me, let's say, some Friday at the Shabbat meal at 9 in the night in Jerusalem, or at 1 in the morning in Shabbat in Jerusalem. We spoke a lot. And after we spoke, I even annotated a diary of my talks with Ina Hecker Grade, because everything she told me about Grade and his family and his manuscripts, after we spoke, I was writing it down. I have a whole manuscript with all our conversations. But one day, she phoned Friday, 9 in the evening at our family meal in Jerusalem. So Tova, who picked up the phone, told her that we now are sitting at the Shabbat table, and if she can perhaps call me at night later. Ina Hecker Grade, an energetic woman, was angry that I didn't answer immediately, and she didn't phone to me anymore. After some 8 years, we were speaking all the time. In order you should understand one day, when I was in California teaching in a university in California, I took a plane to go back to Jerusalem, and I had to change planes. And when I went down one airplane on my way to the airplane to Jerusalem, in the airport, I hear my name. Please, Shane, to come to the desk. Who was it? Mrs. Grade, who was able to detect where I am at any moment in the day or in the night, because she had something very important to tell me. So after 92, when our relations went wrong because of that Sabbath meal, it is not plausible that she wrote the will. It must be before 92. So my lawyer pro bono, Norman Lees, told me, I will represent you in the court in New York, and we will see what we can do. Suddenly, 2 years after 1910, appeared in New York two cousins of Chaim Grade who claimed not the archive, because they have no interest in Yiddish literature. They claimed the money which will be paid for the archive when it will be acquired by some of the institutions. So in that court, those relatives were told, if you can show us a document that you are really his relatives, so you will get the money. My lawyer, Norman Lees, said to me, look, these cousins are 70 years old plus. They want money. They are not interested in Yiddish literature. So if you want, my lawyer said, since we cannot yet show the original will, but I have a standing in the court, I will do anything possible to argue. Arguments lawyers can argue, and it will take the cousins years after the court will, even if they bring their proofs, it will take them years after the court will accept their claims. And their lawyer knows it. So I will speak with their lawyer, and I'll say to him, I cannot show you the original will, but I claim that Professor Yechiel Shentuch, and I can show it, is one of the researchers of Chaim Grade and one of the teachers of his literary legacy. So you, the lawyer of the cousins, if you will not make a compromise with me, the researcher in Jerusalem needs money to publish the books about Grade. So we'll make a compromise, and from the money the cousins will receive, you should give for the purpose of researching Grade and publishing a book or two about him, some money. And normally, my lawyer pro bono get an agreement. And I got $3,000 for that purpose. The archives went to Ivo in New York, and they are digitating them, the manuscripts, and I think that it is possible to see part of them in the internet. I am not sure what the Hebrew University received, if she received copies of part of the manuscripts. In the archives of Chaim Grade, there are books, entire books which were not published until today. And I know that the research of Chaim Grade can go on for years based on the archival material. And since I claimed in a very learned article with proofs that in my opinion, Chaim Grade should be regarded as the fourth classic author in Yiddish literature after Mendele Mocher Sfarim, Yud Lamed Peretz, and Shalom Aleichem, I guess that in the coming years, Chaim Grade's research and teaching of his works will flourish. Do you have any questions or comments, Daniel? Daniel?
No, אין לי question.
Okay. Nechama?
Ja, ich will wissen, welche Sprache hat geredet mit Chaim Grades Weib? Sie hat geredet Yiddish oder Englisch oder Russisch?
Sehr schöne Frage. Eine gute, nur eine schöne Frage. Und ich werde entfernen.
Weil ich halte, Äpfel, sie hat nicht geredet Yiddish wie
Nechama, sag das sehr gut. Sag das mein Entfernen.
Okay.
בבקשה.
Okay.
Wie habe ich sie bekannt mit Ina Hecker Grade? Eider, ich bin gekommen in New York. How did I know Ina Hecker Grade, the widow, before I went to New York in 1983? I phoned to Ina Hecker Grade in 82. And I told her by the phone, I am Yechiel Sheintuch. I want to research Chaim Grade's heritage. I begin to teach Chaim Grade's work in the University of Jerusalem. And what was the answer? The immediate answer of Ina Hecker Grade. You should know, Mr. Sheintuch, anything which is related to Chaim Grade, she answered me at the beginning in English, anything related to him should go through my approval. And if you will do anything without my consent, I will send against you 2 of my lawyers. And what was my answer immediately? Ms. Grade, this is the way a widow should speak about her husband. I congratulate you. And then we went speaking about how can she help me to research Grade with her consent and to teach his writings. And I told you that I want to come to New York to meet her. And then she said to me, you know, Chaim Grade taught me Yiddish. All the Yiddish I know, and she knew a lot, comes from Chaim Grade. And in the next talks, we began to speak in Yiddish, and we talk Yiddish all the time. And when I heard Ina Hecker Grade speaking with me Yiddish, I identified Grade's Loshen, Grade's way of speaking in Yiddish, because all she knew was from Grade's mouth. Yeah. So my answer, Nechama, is that the widow knew Yiddish very well. And she knew Yiddish very well because in New York, since 48, when she and Grade were married and came to New York, they were connected with the whole Yiddish writers and with very eminent professors in New York. For instance, with one of the greatest Talmudists in New York, who was born, if I am not mistaken, in Vilna, where Grade was born. And this professor, this Talmudist, knew every person, real person named in Grade's writings. And even this Talmudist wrote a very important article about Grade's Yiddish writings. And Ina Hecker Grade, the widow, when she came in a society of Yiddish writers and of people who knew Yiddish, and at that time, in the 40s and 50s and 60s, many Jews spoke Yiddish. She was, for her, Yiddish was part and parcel of her education as the wife of Chaim Grade. Nechama, did I answer your question?
Ja, und das wird sein ein guter Essay oder in a Journal, wie so ihr hat mit ihr begegnet und was hat passiert, weil in die Presse, sie hat nicht eine gute Reputation.
Oh, you weißt von was?
Sie machen von ihr wie ein Meshuggah.
Nechama, ihr weißt von was sie hat nicht keine gute Reputation?
Nein, aber öfter das...
Moment.
Ja.
Ich weiß nicht, weil ich auch sagen. בסדר? Ich will auch sagen etwas, was öfter die ganze Gruppe da in Zoom weiß nicht, aber das ist im Internet. Mir hat Zeit und mir hebt dann suchen. Der Ingen ist so. Wenn ich bin gekommen in New York in 1983, כדי sich treffen mit Ina Hecker Grade. Ein Jahr nachdem, wie Chaim Grade ist gestorben. Hab ich sagt, der wusst, euch früher, hab ich sagt, der wusst. Und demut habe ich getroffen Nina Hecker gerade. Ich habe gesagt, der wusst, als in die letzte paar Jahre, was Chaim gerade hat gelebt in New York, Aviva, you can follow my Yiddish or not? Aviva? You hear me?
Yes, I'm following.
And you understand what I say?
I am. I do understand what you're saying for the most part.
Okay, so I will shift to English. Nechama asked me, and this is true, why in the papers people are writing articles against the widow of Chaim Grade. Why are they writing about her very, very negatively? And Nechama said, and this is perhaps also true, why are they writing about her as a person which is not entirely what?
Not friendly.
No, more than that. Entire on her kabals, how do you say? Not entire that she's out of mind. Now, and I ask,
not entirely sane. Not entirely sane.
Yes, insane. Yeah. And I ask Nechama if she know why. Because I know why. They are writing like that. They are not right. They are very angry at her. Why? Because in the last years, the 2 or 3 even 4 last years of Chaim Grade's life, he suffered from a heart failure. And he was hospitalized. And one of the doctors who treated him was a doctor, a Jewish doctor from a family of Yiddishists. And when Chaim and Ina Hecker Grade was very not sympathizing with a lot of Yiddish writers. Because she had her own reservations. If she's right or not, that's not important. She has her reservations about the relationship of Yiddish writers with Chaim Grade. And because of that, and this is really a thing she did, which in my opinion also was not right. When Chaim Grade died, the day Chaim Grade died, he was scheduled to appear before Yiddish writers. And at the moment she didn't came to this meeting, Yiddish writers phoned to Chaim Grade's home. And Nina Hecker Grade picked up the receiver when Chaim Grade was already lying dead. And the Yiddish writers asked, why does it not come? And Ina Hecker Grade didn't tell them that he died. And at the burial, only 4 people came to the cemetery. Ina Hecker Grade, 1 or 2 of her lawyers, and 1 neighbor who was befriended with Chaim Grade. She didn't tell the Jewish community, the Yiddish community of writers, about Chaim Grade's death. And this is the main reason of the anger of the whole Yiddish establishment of writers and Yiddishists, who banned her from, who didn't want to consider anything related to Ina Hecker Grade. When I came in New York in '93, Ina Hecker Grade asked me, we were sitting in a cafe, and she took out of her purse, if I remember, 2 volumes, an anthology in Yiddish of Chaim Grade's works. And she asked me to look at the front page to see if what is written has no faults. And I understood then, these were the 2 last volumes of Chaim Grade's works, which were prepared for print. But she never gave them to publish. More than that, Ina Hecker Grade went to the Yiddish publishing house and took away all the exemplars of other books. She, I would say, confiscated any published book of Chaim Grade and took them away. So it seems angry she was with the Yiddish establishment. I don't know exactly what are all the reasons, but this is one of the facts. Another fact is that one of the, from the family of the heart doctor, the Yiddish heart doctor, who were dealing with Grade's disease, was preparing himself to make a film with Chaim Grade. And since he died, and the widow didn't tell them about his death, this is another reason. כן. מישהו רוצה לשאול או להגיד משהו?
אז sie hat verstärkt efter Chaim Grade's legacy, oder sie ist gewesen a Stoch, oder
Okay.
ja.
נחמה fragt, ob Ina Hecker Grade hat gestört, nicht verstört, nur gestört. Nechama is asking if Ina Hecker Grade was a nuisance or was damaging the possibility to foster Chaim Grade's legacy? This is your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. As far as I understand, since Ina Hecker Grade was a very energetic woman, since she had an MA about, if I am not mistaken, English literature from Trionel, what was the name, a professor in New York, Trionel Trilling. She had an MA. Since she was a person who knew what means research, since she wrote a full book about Chaim Grade, which was not published until today. She sent me the book, the manuscript. She had her own ideas how to foster and how to publish Chaim Grade's Yiddish books and translations into English. She wanted to take away from Yiddishists the initiative to deal with Chaim Grade. And why? As far as I understand, because she thought that they were too narrow-minded. Because she wrote me and she told me, and she told even the President of the United States, that Chaim Grade is a universal writer in Yiddish compared with one of the greatest English writers. She wanted her own way how to prepare a project to publish the works of Chaim Grade. And she wrote a plan about that. And this is the reason why she wanted to give me the possibility until 92, before we didn't be any more friends. She had her own ideas how to foster Chaim Grade's heritage. So I cannot say, Nechama, that she was an obstacle.
כן.
She had different forms of looking at Chaim Grade.
כן, כן, הבנתי. אין עדיין התקדמות, אני אתקשר אלייך כשתהיה.
אוקיי. לא. אוקיי.
כן.
ורה, יש לך שאלה, קומנטר?
זה מה שיש לי.
אני רק רוצה להודות
תשלחי לי
לך.
בוואטסאפ.
רגע, שלמה, אתה מדבר איתי או אתה מדבר בטלפון?
שלמה, אני אעשה לך
ביי, אני
מיוט.
באמצע שיעור זום. ביי.
ורה, כן.
אני רק רוצה להודות לך, אתה פותח לנו את העיניים, מה שאתה סיפרת היה בשבילי, הרבה היה חדש ומעניין מאוד.
ואת כל זה, ואני חוסך לכם את זה, אפשר למצוא את זה באינטרנט, אבל צריך להקדיש לזה שעות כדי למצוא את כל המאמרים ולהבין למה זה כותב ככה ולמה זה כותב ככה. השאלה שאני שואל את עצמי, the question I am asking myself is, considering all the things considered until now, what must be the best way to publish Chaim Grade's heritage? What is the best way to teach Grade's Yiddish writings and what is the best way to go on with the research about Chaim Grade. And my answer is that by no way should we leave Chaim Grade's future in the hands of people who are enemies of his wife or people who are ideologists, Yiddishist ideologists, other ideologies. The research of Yiddish literature must be clean of biases from conflicts of the past. When I wrote my article, and you can see it in Academia Edu, about Chaim Grade as the first classic author of Yiddish literature, I spoke and wrote about the place of Chaim Grade in the history of Yiddish literature. Nothing connected with Yiddishism or with enmity between Yiddish and Hebrew. We should take away from all these ideological conflicts the study of Yiddish literature. Okay.
Es ist geringer für sie zu machen die Weib schuldig und ein Mischugener. Das ist ein alter Meise.
Yeah, when you feel some no hepes, I want to say something more about Ina Hecker Grade. All the time, Chaim Grade lived together with Ina Hecker Grade. Ina Hecker Grade was a faithful associated of Chaim Grade's work. She translated part of his Yiddish writings. She wrote hundreds, perhaps more, letters to anyone in the world about Chaim Grade's importance in Yiddish literature and in English literature, and about Chaim Grade's important place in literature. She corresponded with anyone she thought he is enough important to help the career of Chaim Grade as a Yiddish writer. And in my home, I received from her copies of all those letters. I have hundreds and hundreds of letters she wrote for that purpose. Okay.
Schönen Dank. Yeah.
Okay. ורה, את יכולה להעלות על המסך? Can you put on the screen page?
לדעתי יש כבר...
Ich kann sehen.
אוקיי. ורה, את יודעת איפה אנחנו עצרנו? יש סימן?
לדעתי זה הקו הכחול כזה.
כן, שלמה, אתה רואה את זה?
כן.
אז בבקשה. we will read now page, which page? 40,
44.
40 what?
4. The last page.
44, not
Yes.
43,
Not
44. Okay, Aviva can see the page 44 of Zeide Sunei Niklach? Aviva? אביבה, שומעת אותנו?
היא במיוט.
אולי תגידי לה ברוסית שתפתח?
לא,
יש פה, סליחה, מופיעה הודעה בכתב ממנה בצ'אט שהיא יכולה לראות.
יופי. אז בבקשה, שלמה. המשפט.
wird bezahlen in vor.
לא.
No, von der dritter Socken schläft den ganzen nicht.
זהו, הדריטר זוקל שלופט den ganzen nicht. בבקשה.
הדריטר זוקל schläft ein ganzen nicht.
לא ein, in
ganzen nicht. Sitzt mit streng לא, אני לא מצליח.
מה המילה?
streng zu neu gezeugene Bremen und Tracht, als sie ist die höchste Zeit durchzuführen, was hat schon lang bei sich abgemacht. Wird bezahlen in Voraus הפורוש, אין על זה נקודות, הפורוש פון גונס קלויס, גונס קלויס, jener soll noch im a ganz Jahr dreimal in Tag sein, sagen Kaddish und jeder ein der frei lernen für sich die Schume a Perk Mishnayos.
Okay. Now Nechama will read it again in Yiddish and will begin translating into English so Aviva will understand it immediately. בבקשה, נחמה.
A dritter Socken schläft den ganzen nicht. A third elderly man.
לא, קודם, רגע. את קוראת את כל המשפט עד הסוף ואז.
Das ist ein Mischpat. A dritter Socken schläft den ganzen nicht. So a third older man, it doesn't sleep at all.
כן, I wanted to say those who were not in the other class before, that Grade is describing at the end of his story how the elderly people are sitting behind their stender and what every one of them, of the elderly people, because they are old people, what are they doing in the base Midrash Yashan? תמשיכי, נחמה.
Sitzt nicht streng zu neu gezogene Bremen und Tracht, Es ist die höchste Zeit, durchzuführen, was hat schon lang bei sich abgemacht. Wird bezahlen in Voraus a Porisch von ganz Klois. Jener soll noch immer ganz Jahr 3-mal in Tag sagen Kaddish und jeden in der Früh lernen für seine Neshama a Perek Mishnayos.
Okay, I ask Nechama to read the whole long sentence again after Shlomo in order that you should hear the music of the Yiddish text. Now, Nechama will repeat 2 or 3 words and translate it into English. בבקשה.
Sitzt mit streng zu neu gezogene Bremen und Tracht.
Okay.
He sits with I don't know, folded
Zu neu gezogene Bremen with אני מחפש איך להגיד את זה באנגלית, he sits with eyebrows which are מתוחים, במתח, zu neu gezogen. They are one near the other, which means that he is thinking. Sitzt mit zu neu gezogene Bremen. He's sitting with eyebrows who are more near to each other than normally because he is thinking. תמשיכי.
And streng means, what does streng mean? Streng, close together? Streng.
Which word?
Streng.
No.
Streng zu neu.
רגע, נחמה, שמעתי. Streng means very, איך אומרים streng באנגלית? Very rigorously.
Oh.
With
Okay.
eyebrows very rigorously near one to the other. Okay?
Okay.
Hala.
Okay. Und tracht and thinks.
And thinks. When God says and thinks, this is the reason why his eyebrows are rigorously more near one to the other. Because when a person thinks, the muscles near the eyes are contracted. Okay.
Es ist die höchste Zeit, durchzuführen, was hat schon lang bei sich abgemacht.
Okay. What is he thinking? Now God says, what is he thinking? Okay.
That it's the most
High time.
Important time or crucial time?
Appropriate time.
Appropriate time, the most appropriate time. Durchzuführen, to follow through?
To לבצע, to do, to execute. To realize, to materialize.
What he had already for a long time decided to do.
Right.
Bei sich abgemacht.
Decided to do, okay.
Wird bezahlen in Voraus. Wird bezahlen in Voraus.
Wird bezahlen in Voraus. He will pay in advance, in Voraus in advance.
Porish von ganz
a person which we call in Hebrew a Posh, a person who left his city, his family, and went to another city to learn Torah. this is the definition of a porush, from the Hebrew word lifrosh, to separate himself from his natural way and place of living. In the history of the culture of Jews, a porush was a person who took upon himself a kind of onesh,
Punishment.
a kind of punishment. Such a person, which for one reason or another thought that he behaved not as he should behave, such a person leaves his home, his family, his city, and goes to another city, and generally sits and learns Torah in a holy place. Okay.
Jener soll noch im a ganz Jahr dreimal in Tag sagen Kaddish.
Tirgum.
Okay.
Jener, that this
somebody. This.
מה זה גאון קלויז? זה בית הכנסת של הגאון מווילנה?
ודאי, הזכרנו כמה פעמים בסיפור, נכון. זה בית הכנסת איפה שהגאון מווילנה ישב ולמד, כן.
As Jener is der Polish?
כן,
Okay.
ההוא.
Okay. He, the Polish, soll noch im a ganz Jahr, soll noch im,
נחמה, מהו הפועל? What is the verb in this long sentence? The Yiddish verb.
soll.
Soll is only a part of the verb.
Soll sagen.
Zogen.
Yeah.
So zog means the porush will receive money, so he should zogen in the future. He should zong. He should say something. What should he say? Ken?
But what's noch him?
Not him. He should,
About him?
in his memory. Noch him, after him, which means in his memory. The porush should say something. We'll see in a moment what should he say in his memory, in the memory of the person who is paying. Ken?
A ganz Jahr, a whole year, dreimal in Tag, three times a day, Sagen Kaddish, to say Kaddish.
That's the thing. The porush will get paid, so for a whole year, the porush should say 3 times a day Kaddish in the memory of the person who is paying after his death. זה ברור?
Yeah.
Clear. Okay.
Und jeden in der Früh, and every morning,
Right.
lernen for sein Neshama a Perek Mishnayos. To learn for his to study or to learn for his soul a chapter of the Mishnah.
Of the Mishnah. So the porush get paid for 2 things: for Kaddish 3 times a day a whole year, and every morning for learning a chapter of the Mishnah. Okay. Shlomo, one moment. Someone has any question about words which are not understood after the translation? דניאל, יש מילים שאתה רוצה עוד הסבר?
לא, אבל בכל זאת, אם אפשר אחר כך לתרגם בעברית, יותר נוח לי.
אם אפשר לתרגם לעברית. בבקשה, שלמה, תנסה ממה שקראת. 2-3 מילים ותתרגם.
השאלה מאיפה להתחיל.
מאיפה שקראת. אם אתה זוכר, איפה התחלת.
כן, זה משפט מאוד ארוך, רק שנייה.
מה לעשות? הסיפור הוא סיפור ארוך, כן.
הזקן השלישי, der dritte Socken schloft eingenetzen nicht. הזקן השלישי ישן eingenetzen בלי שימוש.
לא כתוב eingenetzen, מה כתוב?
ingenetzen.
ingenetzen גם לא כתוב.
in ganzen nicht. הזקן השלישי...
עוד לא קראת עד למקום שזה make sense.
Der dritte Socken schläft in ganzen nicht.
עכשיו תתרגם.
הזקן השלישי ישן...
לא, schläft in ganzen nicht.
איננו ישן לגמרי.
נכון, הלאה.
sitzt mit streng zwiefgängene Bremen und Tracht.
Mit streng eingezogene Bremen.
zu neu
gezogene Bremen. תראו.
היא סיט, הוא יושב.
לא, בעברית, אתה עכשיו, התפקיד שלך זה עברית, כן.
הוא יושב עם גבות מתוחות.
נכון, הלאה.
ומהרהר.
אונטראכט.
כן.
עוד 2-3 מילים ביידיש.
אז ist die höchste Zeit durchzuführen, was hat schon lang bei sich abgemacht.
כן, תראו.
הבשיל הזמן כדי לנהל מה שהוא... לבצע, פירן זה לנהל, לא?
מה המילה? תגיד את המילה ביידיש. זה לא פירן, כתוב דוך צופירן. מה עם הדוך? דוך צופירן? להעביר דרך, זאת אומרת לבצע.
לבצע, was hat schon lang bei sich abgemacht. את מה שהוא כבר גמר בדעתו מזה זמן רב.
כן. אני שואל, נחמה, היום ויגנט יש לה קורס?
כן, ich darf Reusgen in a minute.
נעצור כאן, ואני מודה לכם על הסבלנות.
רק רגע, יש לי הערה לסדר. אנחנו מוגדרים כאיזה קורס אינטראקטיבי, ויש כאן 3 או 4 אנשים שאני לא רואה אותם. זה לא...
לא, זה כבר אמרנו קודם, שיש בעיה, אבל שומעים אותם, וזה מה שחשוב. החלטנו בהתחלת הפגישה, שאנחנו לא נתעסק אם לראות אותם או לא, כי לא נצליח היום, כי ורה אמרה לנו שאפרים עשה משהו שלא רואים, אבל שומעים אותם. אז בפעם הבאה, ורה תנסי שנוכל לראות את כולם. בסדר, שלמה?
כן, בסדר גמור.
להתראות ביום חמישי.
תודה רבה. תודה רבה.
ב-6 לקשקש, וננסה כבר לגמור ביום חמישי.
כן.
אוקיי.
להתראות, תודה.
להתראות.
שלום אביבה, אני מקווה שזה עוזר לך קצת.
את סטייסי לא ראיתי בכלל איך היא נראית.
טוב, אמרנו שיש בעיה.